And away we go.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the one, the only, the Bradley Hall.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want to welcome you to today's edition of the Bradley Hall Show. And I am your host, the Bradley Hall. Welcome to this episode of the Bradley Hall Show. Today, my guest is Megan Scott. Megan Scott is a friend of mine, and we met on the set for CBS Sunday Morning interview that we did a few months ago. Megan is a fellow NPE, and she has graciously agreed to join us and share her story with us today. So, welcome, Megan.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
I'm
Good.
I'm good. I appreciate you joining me today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we both know how important this topic is to
Sure.
not only us, but an alarmingly growing large group of people as well.
Absolutely.
So, do you want to do the honors and kind of explain what NPE means to you, what the definition is in your mind, and what it means to you?
Well, it's not parent expected from people that have done DNA tests, kind of got blindsided by their results, and I'm one of them. I have I did a DNA test. I took advantage of a Black Friday sale and I guess it was just November of 2018. And I got it in, I swabbed, sent it off, was super excited because I just wanted to see how Irish I was. And I got my results back on Christmas Eve of 2018. So I was looking at it and I'm like, I'm not as Irish as I thought I was. I had a lot of German in me and a lot of English. It's just kind of like, okay, whatever. Maybe it's just what they're calculating it now, like maybe it'll change later. So I went into my family Christmas, event the following day, kind of with this, I don't know, I noticed some discrepancies in my results. I didn't see any like my maiden name is Moore. I didn't see any of my surnames in the list of my matches, and it was kind of throwing me off. And I saw this first cousin that I didn't notice the last name at all. So I was kind of like weirded out by it. So I went into, Christmas with kind of like an uneasy feeling. Let me go back a little bit. My growing up was not, it was not fun. I was the youngest of 4, and there was a huge age gap between me and the sister above me. There was 10 years. Talk was that my father had a vasectomy and I was an oops baby. So that kind of went along over the years. And then about the time that I was 17 or 18, in a fight, he threw out that I needed to check my blood type because he didn't think I was his. But I thought he was just saying it out of anger. And so I kind of just let it go. But it was always in the back of my head for years, right? Sure. So now we're fast forwarding here. Those feelings start coming up again, like, oh my God, what if dad was right? What if I'm really not his? So he passed away in 2010. So I had his sister, my only living aunt on that side. I asked her, do you think that if you did a DNA test, you think it would bring more of, your side of the family to the surface? She said, I don't know, let's try it. So she's 70 something. So I sent her a test. She did it. She got her results back like February 6th or something. And I kept checking to see if she was going to pop up on my stuff. And everybody kept saying, just wait a little bit. Maybe it's just not resume, she has it turned off, like her privacy turned off. So February 9th, I drove, I don't know, like an hour away to go help her navigate through it. And as soon as I opened up her matches and realized that her settings were not off, time just froze. I just sat there and I was trying to keep my composure because I didn't want her to know what I was really feeling. And I realized that me and her did not match, which means that me and my dad are not, related. We don't share the same DNA.
Yeah.
So, I just looked at her and I just started crying. And I'm like, was there ever any talk about, that mom stepped out on dad? And she was just like, oh, baby, come here. And she hugged me, and we just cried. And it was just really emotional. And, I ended up leaving there, driving an hour home, just crying the whole time. And I got home and I asked my mom, I called her and I was like, hey, do you have anything you want to tell me? My mom she's 75, but I guess a year ago, she was 74. And I had asked her, I was like, do you have anything that you need to tell me? And she said, no. I was like, well, I have some funky stuff come up on my DNA matches with Ancestry.
Okay. So NPE, let's kind of go back a little bit. NPE stands for not parent expected.
Right.
And it is when someone discovers typically that their father isn't who they thought it was, but there are cases where people find out that their mother isn't who they thought it was. So, and it includes a wide variety of things, of affairs, adoptions, and it's not always nefarious. Not all people have hid it from their child for nefarious reasons. Some have done it to protect their child. Some have done it to protect their secret. There's no doubt about that. There's just there's a whole lot of variation, a lot of variables here. So we don't want to insinuate, anyone's situation to be what it is. Now, your situation is a little different, right? I mean, your mother knew. Did your mother know?
Yeah. Okay. My mother knew.
Okay. Has she admitted that?
No, she has not.
Okay.
She swears she's very narcissistic. She's an alcoholic. I think she has fell into her lie and she's believed it, her quote is, whenever we did talk about it, I don't talk to her now, but it was like, I just forgot, like, I don't know, it seems real generic for me, you just forgot what, that I don't look like my dad and that I look like your first love, so.
So it's, this is very hard. And I'm in the same boat you are. And you know that. I was not told. I heard rumors, and then I verified it accidentally. And I told my story in the first podcast. It's very hard to look at the person who has wronged us and try to have compassion.
Right.
But it doesn't change the facts. The facts is that human beings will lie to protect themselves, their image. And it's also a fact that when we do lie, that we're often faced with a fork in the road, and the fork in the road is to either finally come clean and destroy our image that other people have of us, and maybe even of ourselves, or to go deeper in the lie. And the deeper you go in the lie, the harder it is to come out. And that's just human nature. It's factual. So, not that people shouldn't be held accountable by any stretch of the imagination. That's I'm not saying that, but it does help to understand why human beings do the things they do. It also it takes a little bit of the personal edge off, because I don't know about you. I do know because I know your story, but you know, I took it's also human nature to take this incredibly personally. I felt like I had personally been violated and I'd been cheated,
Absolutely.
And it was. You want to talk a little bit about that, about your initial
Sure.
emotions?
I mean, like I growing up in my household, I kind of felt gypped anyway because I was 10 years younger than the sister above me. All three of my sisters had moved out by the time I was in 4th grade. I had to deal with my mom's alcoholism, which got progressively worse over the years. My father worked, we owned a gun range, and he worked 16-hour days to provide, to stay away from my mom, because they were married 43 years before he passed away. I mean, it was all, it was just all too much for me as a kid growing up. Like I saw things I shouldn't have had to see. Like I ended up taking my loneliness and my, I guess, childhood depression and trauma, and I flipped it and I started doing drugs at the age of like, I don't know, 11 or 12. And over the years that turned me into a drug addict. And I can't really blame my parents for that, but they did contribute. From the stuff that was going on in my house, I didn't want to be there, so I went where I was appreciated, I guess you could say, or I felt loved. I'll say that. I felt loved with friends, and friends had drugs, and then I started to lean into that. So
Well,
yeah, I mean,
and I don't mean to cut you off with that, but I think it's important to note here because I did the same thing, and it's important to note that this is typical of developmental trauma.
right.
When a child suffers trauma, especially in the formative years, that it there are complications that develop from it, and risky behavior is one of them. It clouds our judgment, it clouds our decision making skills. There's a high level of adrenaline and somewhat of an addiction to that, that drugs and risky behavior bring along with it, as well as the lack of self worth, of
Yeah.
of not thinking that you're worthy of protecting yourself, that the risk is okay because there's no concern there. So that's pretty normal behavior, and
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's basically my life. Like, it was all trauma, now that I look back at everything, it was
yeah,
just
yeah. So the interesting thing is about that self-inflicted trauma is often a result of trauma that was inflicted upon us by someone else. So
crazy?
it is crazy. So, and it's important to understand, as we understand this as adults, that because shame is a huge part of childhood trauma, and we carry that shame, and the shame, it's self-perpetuating. It drives us to more negative behavior. More negative behavior creates more shame, and it's a cycle that's hard to get out of. But when we understand that the crazy things that we're doing were caused because of things that were beyond our control, then we can begin to accept why we're doing it, and take away that shame. When we begin to take away the shame, everything begins to change. It really takes, it's like the clouds moving out of the way of the sun, and we can really start to focus on our behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is. It is. So, okay. So your father, you think your father knew?
I think he had an idea. I mean, he had a vasectomy. Like, yeah, he didn't go get his counts rechecked or whatever the case may be, but I don't know. I was the redheaded stepchild. Like, I came out with pumpkin orange hair, and all my sisters had dark hair. Yes,
Okay.
my mom had red hair in her family, but I don't know. It was just, he had a vasectomy. I mean,
Right.
that's just a red flag anyway,
Yeah.
But
Do you look like your biological father?
yes, it was a smack in my face when I saw that. In fact, I have 4 new siblings from my biological father. They're all older than me. I'm the youngest of 8 now. They say that I look and act more like him than they do. Seriously, like
Yeah.
he passed away a year prior to me finding this out, like a year and a month
I'm
to the
sorry.
date. Um, it's okay. And I think when they visually saw me, it was like he came back from the dead. You know, like I
Yeah.
can only imagine how it would feel on their behalf because I mean, it was just a year, you know. So I don't know. They say that I act a lot like him, and it's very I guess it's very humbling. You know,
Yeah. When
it's a
I,
nice surprise for them.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. When I went to visit my father, my biological father also passed away. He passed away in 2004. And when I went to visit his brother, the only remaining sibling, he looked like he had seen a ghost when I got out.
Yeah, it's
He,
crazy. Yeah, and we're not the only ones going through this. You
no,
know, like
no,
they go through it too, and we just get the brunt of it. I think they get the other, you know, side of it where they have to distinguish on whether or not this is real,
right.
you know, like the whole enchilada. So they go through it too. They go through
But
emotion.
you bring up an excellent point, and this affects everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so when we find out, um, our entire world is completely ripped out from underneath us, and I can't stress that enough. We'll talk about this in every episode. So many people say, "I don't understand why you're being like this. Your father's your father. Nothing changes. Doesn't change who you are." And people who don't experience this have no idea. They have no. We appreciate their concern, and almost all of them are helping. But please just stop. You know,
We've lost our whole identity.
that's exactly right. That's
You
exactly
know, like who we thought we were is no longer,
that's
you
right.
know, and we've whatever we went through growing up, we've built this it's like we've built an empire and then it all just comes crashing down because
That's right.
you don't know who you are anymore. And it's almost like you have to restart over your
That's
life.
it.
Like it's crazy.
Absolutely right. But we also need to add that the siblings we grew up with are now impacted because they, you know, they look at you and they look at us and they say, wow, I thought this was my full sibling and it's only my half sibling. And so it moves into almost like a step parent kind of thing. And it's hard for them. And not only that, but the drama that is now created within the family and the division that may happen between an NPE and the parents, and in most situations the mother, the full siblings they also have to deal with that, and then everyone has to deal, and then we have the other family, the new family, that they have to, you know, the main family has to deal with the new family, and the new family has to accept that there's a sibling they didn't know about. Then there may
And they
have
have their own dynamics on top of that, you
right,
know, like I have I have three sisters that were like maternal, I'll say, my maternal three sisters that I grew up with. And then now I have four paternal siblings that I know what it's like to grow up in a house of four. Like there's so many different personalities, there's so many different dynamics. One's best friends with the other. There's just so many like there's so many parts of it, you know?
yeah,
And so they had, I don't know what their relationships were with each other prior to me, you know?
that's
So here
right,
I come like barreling in, interrupting their family. And I don't know about you, you're Cancer, correct?
yeah,
Right? So I'm very empathetic. So I feel what other people are feeling and I sponge it in. So when all this happened, I wasn't worried about me. I was worried about their mom and I was worried about them, you know? So it was extra for me because I was actually like feeling what they were going to feel, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah. Did you see my talk that I did for the NPE conference, the 2020 NPE
Mhm.
conference? The video where I talked about that, about
Yeah.
we spend so much time worrying about what everyone else thinks, and even more so that people who've experienced childhood trauma become codependent. They become more attuned to pleasing people around them and trying to keep their environment safe and keeping everyone happy, and it leads to misery. And you know, that's kind of a different subject. I don't really want to go into that today, but I want to make sure that you did see the talk. It's crucial to this whole thing to be able to protect ourselves, and the healing, to facilitate the self-healing, we have to be able to set up boundaries, which weren't always there. Okay, so we had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we were talking about the effect this has on everyone, and including the new family and their dynamics. You were talking about they have their cliques and the way they do things, and now suddenly there's someone else in the picture, and it may not always be positive. It may be that there may be an entire family unit of siblings that are whole siblings, that there's some older and some younger, and they have to accept the fact that their father had an affair and may have had another child and may have known or may have not known. I mean, there's so many dynamics. So it's easy for us to get really caught up in what's happening to us, and which is ironic because in the same breath, we have to quit worrying about how it affects everyone else.
Right.
So it's a juggling act.
Yeah.
So have you met your new family?
I have. So let me backtrack a little bit. Whenever I found out that my aunt did not match me, I got into this ancestry matching group, and I had asked, is this a glitch? And everybody kept telling me no. I think there was like 200 comments, and a lady was in that comment section, and she messaged me, and she said, "Your story has pulled at my heartstrings. I want to help you. I'm a DNA search angel, and I want to help you find your biological family." And so that moment in time, I was kind of in a fog. I didn't really know what was going on. And I just was like, whatever, let's do this, So we connected on that side level. And that was on February 9th. February 11th, like a day and a half, she found my biological family.
Okay.
She found out that it was, my bio father. He had 4 kids. We lived very close to each other. He had passed away a year prior. And so once that was confirmed, I immediately found one of my brothers on Facebook. And I sent him this really long message saying, "Hey, this is what's going on. I'm like 99% sure that I basically belong to y'all,
Yeah.
And he read it, and he conversed with all of his siblings about it. And his first message to me was, "Let me see a picture of your calves, and I'll tell you if you're any kin to me." Because apparently my bio father had big calves, muscular legs, just like the 4 of them. And as soon as he said that, I literally had to laugh because I have these big old calves, muscular calves and thighs. And they've always been an insecurity of mine because my sisters didn't have them,
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. So I sent him a picture. They conversed a little bit. 2 of my siblings didn't want anything to do with me. They thought it was a scam. I think they just thought it was a scam. And then, so me and that brother conversed a little bit more. We went to like a private DNA test just to clear the air and make sure. And it came back, we were like 97% positive siblingship. So he sent the results to the other 3. And when I met him that day at the private place, he was just looking me up and down. He said he didn't even need that DNA test to show that we were related, because he said it was like looking at my father.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I met them. As of now, a year later, we're all great. We spent Thanksgiving together, Christmas together. I met one of the sisters that lives in Virginia. She wasn't around for Thanksgiving, but she came down for Christmas. It was great. We got great pictures. I am very blessed on that because some people don't get what I get.
No.
A lot of people, even though I lost my bio father and I'm never going to get to know him, I have 4 siblings. I have a bunch of nieces and nephews now, and they love me. They accept me and my husband and my kids, and it's really a blessing, I think, for everybody at this point. But as far as that goes,
yeah, I'm happy to hear you. I'm happy to hear that. Um,
yeah.
because we belong. We didn't mention this at the beginning, but we belong to the same group, the NPE Fellowship, uh,
Hmm.
and they have a group on Facebook of people just like us,
Right.
and and it's we hear a lot of stories, and I think we're up to
7,000,
7,000 people,
over 7,000. Yeah.
which is phenomenal. Because when I joined, I think it'd be 2 years ago in June. I think we were around 300 people.
Oh wow. I think whenever I joined, I think it was like 4,200. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
So it just in less than 2 years, we've gone from 300
yeah,
to
7,000. It's
7,000.
crazy.
It is crazy, and this is a thing, and
It's like
a
an
lot of
epidemic.
people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It really is, and a lot of people don't have the success story with their new biological family that you have. So you are very blessed, and I'm
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
happy to hear it. Um,
Thanks.
yeah, yeah. So did you did, when you found out the results, did it make sense? I mean, once you got past the initial fog, right? I mean, at first we're like, I can't piece this together. But at some point, did you have an aha? This all
Oh
makes
yeah.
sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I felt like growing up I was treated differently. I felt so I mean, just seeing my bio father was a aha in general, because over the years I've always studied like me and my sister side by side. Like we have similar features, but I think once my dad had said that one thing to me about me not knowing, like him not knowing if I was his or not, um and like I said before, it was like in the back of my head the rest of my life. I would always just like study side by side pictures and be like, try to psych myself out of it. Like, oh, he was just angry. We look like each other, whatever. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things make sense. My insecurities that I've had growing up are answered now,
yeah,
which sucks because I'm almost 37. Like I went through all that growing up to have it all answered now. Like why,
yeah.
you know,
Well,
um,
I mean, there are two ways to look at that, right? I mean, it does suck that it took so long, and I went through
sure.
the same thing, and I didn't find out until I was 46. But we did find out, and this is at least we know now, and at least we can move forward with the truth.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, that I can deal with anything in my life as long as I know the truth. It's when I'm deceived and people are intentionally trying to hide things from me, and and no, as long as I know what's going on, I can move forward. And so I feel liberated, and I talk about that in that the speech I gave at the press at the
Right.
retreat. Um, do you feel that way?
I do. I feel like I'm not crazy. Like I feel like
Yeah,
I felt very gypped with a lot of things growing up. I felt treated differently by some of my grandparents, like my mom's side. And it's funny that my mother's parents treated me differently, but my dad's parents loved me and treated me amazingly. And they're not even my real grandparents at this point now, looking back. And
yeah,
so it's my my father passed away 3 months before I got married in 2010. And so I felt gypped then
yeah,
that he wasn't able to walk me down the aisle, but he walked my 3 sisters down the aisle, which now it's like, was that supposed to happen? I don't know.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have all these things going through my head on the whys and the what ifs. That's a hard thing for me, I can admit. Like it it kind of consumes me sometimes.
Well, sure.
But as far as like, I
I,
don't know, there's
I
just a
think
lot
that
of things that didn't add up growing up, and they're all kind of like, that's why this happened,
yeah, yeah, and I
you know.
have I have those same things, almost. I mean, almost identical.
Yeah.
And one of the things, it can be overwhelming to think back, and I feel like I was treated differently as well, but that's a slippery slope because we also have the acclimation to begin to. We also have the tendency to start seeing things that may not be there.
Right.
And so what is ultimately important is what's happening right now. Who's who's interacting with us on a healthy level, who's treating us with respect, who is good for us, who is not as good for us, and try to move forward and not live in the past,
Right.
which is easier said than done, and it applies to every situation, but it's certainly one that helps in this instance. So, cool. Well, is there anything you'd like to finish this off with? Anything that we didn't get to talk about you'd like to mention?
I mean, I just,
You can take a
I,
second. We're not live.
okay.
You can
I
think
mean,
about
like, I feel, I don't know, for the people that are going through this now, like, I remember first coming into our group and, first finding all this out. I definitely, for me, it affected me a lot because, I got really depressed. I did uh want I did have suicidal thoughts for a long while. I just felt like I'm trying not to cry.
Please do.
No, I don't want to cry.
I want you to.
um
I don't mean please do. I meant, I want you
oh
to feel free to be honest.
yeah, I mean, like, I just feel that in a year's time I've come a long way from when I first found out. I have my moments every now and again where it's very consuming about, like, oh well, my kids are never going to have any grandparents because my husband doesn't real I mean, whatever, he doesn't have they don't have any grandparents on that side really, and my dad's gone. He would have been an amazing grandfather. My bio father was an amazing grandfather from what I hear. My siblings say that he would have accepted me with open arms had he known, which really makes me angry at my mother because who knows what my life would have been like if I had a split household. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if I were, did the weekend dad thing and or whatnot? Like, how would I have been a drug addict? Like, I ask all these questions to myself, like, how would it have panned out, if my mother had have been honest and just, even after my dad passed away in 2010, if she felt like she was going to get in trouble by him or scolded because she cheated on him, like, why wouldn't she had told me after he passed away? Because nobody was going to, like, it wouldn't have mattered. Dad was gone, like, why didn't you tell me, hey, there is a possibility that you might have another father out there and this is who he is. um I would have had 7 years with him to get to know him,
Yeah.
you know, before
Well,
he passed away, and I
you're
feel
absolutely.
really gypped.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And there's two things I want to add to that. The first thing is that you could be completely wrong. You could have met him and it could have been a complete disaster. But that was your decision to make. That was your experience to experience, and for
Right.
someone to deny us that experience is where we feel cheated. Is where we've been wrong. That
Yeah.
at some point, now there's a lot of debate about when to tell someone, and it goes, and that kind of goes along with the adoption argument. Do we tell them when they're a small child? We tell them when they're a teenager? Do we wait till they're 18? 18, you're legally adult, but are you really emotionally mature enough? It depends on
Right.
the situation. But at some point, I mean, you said you were 36.
I'm 36, yeah, now, and then so 26 years old I would have been, and she could have told me, but she was so she just says she forgot.
Yeah,
So here we are, but I'm very angry at her. I'm not, like I told her, I'm not mad at you for the infidelity. Stuff happens. You were
agreed.
a stay-at-home mom of 4 or 3 at the time. My dad worked 16-hour days. Back in the day, it was probably inevitable that
And
was going to happen.
people are people. This is
Yeah,
people been doing this
humans,
for
like, we make
thousands of years.
mistakes,
Human
right.
beings, we make mistakes. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and so I wasn't mad at her for going back to her first love, like, whatever, I'm a love child. I was mad at her for not telling me and
That's right.
gypping me once again of an opportunity to get to know this guy, and, I just can't forgive her for that.
Yeah.
I've tried to forgive her. I've tried to
Well,
let it go. I've tried to lie to myself about forgiving her, and I just can't do it because then I'm not true to myself. And she's caused me so much trauma over the years that I feel like I just can't let this one go. Like I had to cut ties with her. I do not talk to her.
well, let me ask you something. And I I don't know what the answer to this for you is, but I do want to know. And this I'm doing this not only for fellow MPs to tell their story because I think that's important. And you know how critical I think that is.
Right.
But we have parents that are going of MPs that are going to hear this, hopefully, and we just want them to understand what we're dealing with. And people have a tendency to be on guard and defend their position, and I don't want that. I want people to listen to understand where we're at. And
Yeah.
do you think this is speculative? And if you can't answer the question, please feel free to be honest and tell me. But do you think if your mother called you right now and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't tell you the truth. I don't know why I didn't tell you the truth. I understand it hurts you. Please forgive me." Can you work with that? I'm not saying can you forgive her. I'm saying would that be enough of a catalyst to
Absolutely,
initiate
I
a
could work
conversation?
with that. Yes, from what I didn't get is like I told you, I forgot. Like, I'm sorry, what do you want me to tell you? Like, stuff happened, whatever. That was basically like what I got from her. And um yeah, absolutely. If she would call me up out of nowhere and be like, I apologize. I can't believe that um I have put you through all of this stuff. Like, it would be a different story if I didn't have to dig for information or if I didn't have to make her apologize to me. If she did it 100% on her own, it was genuine, and it would be totally different. I could
Yep.
work with that. Like, if she was empathetic to my feelings instead of not being like a narcissist and being kind of like, oh well, I just forgot, like, it would be totally different. But
Yeah.
she's not like that, and it sucks. Excuse me, but it does,
It,
you
it,
know?
it does. It really does. And it's what happened when people are on opposing sides. And humility goes a long way in repairing relationships.
Oh yeah, and one of the first things she said to me was, "So you're going to tell everybody?" Yeah, I am going to tell everybody because they love me and they care
It's not
about me.
you're not a secret.
No,
You're
I'm not a
not a
secret
secret.
anymore.
You're
I'm
not a secret.
wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's where the shame comes in, right? The shame from the trauma is you can't tell anyone because something is wrong with the situation. You can't tell anyone because you're a mistake. You weren't supposed to happen. We have to hide you. That's a subliminal language that goes along with that.
Right.
And in my healing, I immediately rejected that and like no, I've got enough of that from my childhood already that I have to deal with
Mhm.
that I'm beginning to start to come out with now. I'm not going to accept this. This is who I am. This is not my doing. I didn't have anything to do with this, and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to help other people. And
Right.
it's not and this is that honesty I was talking about a minute ago, where we deserve to know, and then let us make our decisions from there to have all the
Right.
information. And this
Yes.
is part of it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell the truth, and then what you do with it is up to you. Or the other person. So I'm right. I'm right there with you. This is you should not be ashamed of this at
No,
all. And
not so ever. Like, it is, like, the way that I thought about it is when she said that, it kind of solidified a lot of things for me because I'm like, oh, she's really all about her identity, which, like, her, what is it called?
reputation,
Her, huh?
reputation.
Reputation, but she doesn't have one. So I don't know why she was acting like that, like,
Yeah,
she doesn't have a reputation in years. But for her to only think about what other people were going to think about this, like that hurt even worse. I'm like, I'm the one suffering here, not you, not these people. I am, and I'm going through this. Who cares what these people think? Like, I definitely, I said, I'm not taking up for her anymore. I did that too long. I'm not I'm not gonna be like, oh, mom did something bad, like, let me, I can't think of the word.
It's all right.
Um, anyways, yeah, so she's just a narcissist, and I had to tell my story, and I told it loudly and when I was ready, and I own it now, like I think in general I am very blessed with all the goodness that came out of this. I still struggle with not being able to meet my bio father. It really hurts. But I'll get through it. I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. This one's just taking longer for me to get through. And
But you're doing it. You're doing it with
yeah,
the truth. You now know who you are. You know where you come from, and we can begin to rebuild our identity the way we want to build. And that's a huge key. It's what I talk about in that talk, that you already built who you were based on the information you had. We just didn't realize we were doing it. When you're younger, you just grow up. But now you're at a point where you get to decide who you want to be based
right.
off where you come from, and it's a blessing. It's hard to remember that at times because the trauma can be overwhelming. But you're I'm glad we got to meet. It was a little unnerving that we met sitting right in front of Rita Braver,
right?
yes, cameras in our face. Um, but listening to your story and watching you and other people in the group, because I've been in there almost 2 years, and so I've seen so many people come in, and watching the evolution of people. I'm extremely proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're absolutely welcome, and
I
I mean
I
that with
have
all my heart.
I definitely, from the time that this all began, I didn't think I was going to be here for my kids. That's how bad it got. And there was a period of time where I was drinking to get wasted for like 2 weeks straight, and I was like, I had to snap out of it. Like, this isn't who I am. What am I doing? And I felt like I was kind of going back to my old ways from when I was a drug addict, and I've been clean from drugs for 13 years. Like, there's no way I was going to get
Awesome. I don't want to roll right over that. I want to tell you that that's amazing. You should be very
thanks.
proud of that fact. I know you are.
I'm very proud, and because I know what I was like before I stopped doing drugs, so it was,
Yeah.
I'm very, when I say I built myself to where I was, and then it all got taken away from me again, like I really worked hard during my sobriety to come back, make a comeback. And I feel like I'm making a comeback again. And everybody's like, you're strong. You've been through everything. Like, you'll get through this. And sometimes I question it, but I know deep down I'll get through this, like it'll, I've come a
Because
long way.
it's
So
because you're resilient. Resiliency is a side effect of trauma, and when we do make it through, and we look back, that we've been through more than most people can understand. And when you realize what you've been through, you realize that you had to be strong to get through that. You have the strength to move forward. You certainly do, my friend.
appreciate it.
You're welcome. So, okay. Well, I appreciate you doing this today, and for telling your story. It's telling your story is part of the healing process.
It's healing. Like I
Oh,
feel, I feel very lightened today.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to help. And keep telling your story.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic, and the more you tell it, the more it normalizes it, and helps reduce that shame factor we were talking about. For sure.
I'm gonna write a book someday about all this crap.
You should. You absolutely should. And I'll be the first to buy it.
Yay!
So, okay. Thank you again, Megan. It's always a pleasure. And
thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to how all your podcasts go, and I'm really looking forward to listening to all of them.
well, thank you. I hope this is the start of something big and beautiful.
Oh,
So
it will be.
I appreciate your support. So
Absolutely.
okay, we'll talk to you soon. Take care of yourself.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Megan. Bye bye.
Bye.